Duh. You're watching the number one podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean-Paul Leek, and this is Rope Break. Family, Monday Night Raw Fallout show from Fastlane is in the books, and like a typical Monday Night Raw, they gave us some good segments, some good build to WrestleMania. They gave us some head-scratching segments, and they gave us some plain, just straight up garbage segments, but, typical par for the course for a Monday Night Raw. But, just want to thank each and every one of you, huge growth over the weekend, fantastic response to the soccer video. Juan, Mauricio, go check that out. Great stuff, all the Spanish audience we have, soccer fans, clearly you guys enjoyed it. So we're going to try to get more of that on the channel for sure. But, let's get into the Monday Night Raw review. And the show opened up. We saw, again, another match we've seen in the past, something that, really I didn't understand. And then we kind of saw what happened afterwards, and I still don't understand it. So the opening match of this show with Sheamus and Bobby Lashley. Again, good match just for these two guys. They're both pros. They're both good. But why did we need to see it? We just saw this match, not a week or two ago, so didn't really make sense. And Lashley looked good. Sheamus looked good. But then, of course, Shelton, Cedric, they had to get involved, distracting the ref, this and that, all that kind of stuff. And eventually, as this thing goes on, you see Lashley, he's kind of getting a little annoyed with them because it's like, let me just fight my own fight. I don't need you guys out here, helping me. So at the end of this thing, Sheamus, he goes up top, dives onto Lashley with a flying clothesline, back in the ring, hits another one for a near fall. They keep going back and forth. Then Lashley slides down and he gets some forearms onto Sheamus. And then he counters with a suplex, hits a big knee to the face for a near fall. But Sheamus then looks for the bro kick. Lashley avoids it. Sheamus elbows Lashley. Then Cedric distracts Sheamus, allowing Lashley to hit a spine buster. Then he applies the hurt lock, and Sheamus eventually taps out. So, that was the opening match. Like I said, we saw it. So not really too much interest, not too much, oh, this is awesome. But it's, again, mainly for what happened afterwards. Because after the match, Lashley, he's celebrating when Alexander and Shelton drag Sheamus out of the ring. They start to beat him up. He kind of just is like, whatever, you guys do what you got to do, I guess. But then eventually Drew comes out, and, he slams Benjamin into the barricade, tosses Cedric over the barricade. He gets in the ring, him and Lashley face to face. And, MVP's like, no, save it, save it. Drew puts his hands behind his back. He's like, go ahead, hit me, all this stuff. And I believe, he actually like Claymore kicked them and all this stuff too. Drew did to Cedric and Shelton. So, no, that was later on. That was later on. I'm getting the two segments mixed up. There you go. But, at the end, he just stares him down. And again, WrestleMania build. So this match to me, we'll talk about it more on SmackDown, but they added Daniel Bryan to the main event at WrestleMania, Edge and Roman. So that's a triple threat. I would have rather seen this be a triple threat. If you're still going to include Sheamus and do all this crap, add him to that match, keep that other match a singles match. But instead, it's just this build for a match that the way they're kind of setting it up, it seems like the Hurt Business is falling apart. And, Drew is the new Roman. It's like, let's just push him and do all this stuff. And, so I really didn't care just how this segment really affected everything. But, that was the start of Monday Night Raw. And then we come back from commercial break. Shelton and Alexander, they're walking backstage. Lashley confronts them, and he asks them why they stuck their nose in his business. And they say that they're all a team. And Lashley says that he doesn't need or want their help. MVP explains that they made it look like Lashley couldn't beat Sheamus by himself, and that's embarrassing, just like it was embarrassing when they lost the Raw Tag Team Championships, and they said that they are embarrassing the Hurt Business. So again, we saw Retribution split up at the pay-per-view. Are we going to see the Hurt Business split up in the next couple of weeks before WrestleMania? I would say most likely, and to me that is a damn shame because this group was legit, and this is what you're going to do with them. Not very good booking at all. And we see a video package of Randy Orton, the Fiend, Alexa Bliss feud, going back to the Inferno match all the way up to last night, or 2 nights ago technically, at Fastlane. The Fiend then returned with a terrifying new look. Later, Orton will summon the Fiend. So we have that to look forward to in the main event. Then the Raw Women's Champion Asuka makes her way to the ring, and she'll be in action after the break. And we get Asuka versus Payton Royce. And this was a good showing for Payton Royce. She came out, she was serious, didn't do her little dance or ass shake. No, none of that. Just walked to the ring, real serious, wanted to fight, especially after that great promo she cut on Raw Talk. Well, I'll say great for her. Not great in the grand scheme of, promos, but good for her, very serious. And this match, unfortunately, you think, oh, is she going to win? Is this going to be some kind of maybe match at WrestleMania? Which, I'm sorry, Payton Royce, but nobody really wants to see that. It's WrestleMania. But there's all this stuff going on with Charlotte Flair. So you knew it wasn't going to be her. It had to be somebody else. But, if you have a thinking brain, you knew, Rhea Ripley's going to be on this show tonight. No Charlotte. Asuka still needs a challenger. There's no more pay-per-views until WrestleMania, no Fastlane, none of this. So it's probably going to be Rhea Ripley. So, sorry, Peyton, but good showing for her in this match. She countered Asuka, a lot of her moves. Things were kind of even. Asuka would go for the hip attack. She would dodge it, in the rope, slammed her on the outside on the apron. Good stuff. At the end of this thing, Royce rolls Asuka up for a near fall. Then Asuka hits a code breaker for a near fall. And then Asuka backs Royce into the corner and then lifts her up to the top rope. Asuka looks for a superplex, but Peyton fights her off. Then hits a double stomp to the back for a near fall. Asuka drops Peyton, applies the armbar, but Peyton is able to grab her hands and roll her over, only for Asuka to transition into the Asuka lock, and then eventually Peyton taps. So, Asuka wins. Like I said, good match for Peyton. She looked good in this. Hopefully, this wasn't a once and done because of what we saw afterwards. Hopefully, we keep seeing Peyton Royce and they use her in the women's division because she shows this intensity. She shows, this like will to win, this will to be great, not just, like half these other women, or I shouldn't even say that. It's just the way that WWE, presents the women's division as a whole. But if this is a telltale sign of things for the future, then, good for Peyton and good for the division. But afterwards, we hear Rhea, her music plays pretty much right when this is over. She comes down, she grabs a microphone, smiles at Asuka, and she says Asuka is one of the greatest champions in WWE history. She proved herself, and last she checked, Charlotte Flair was out challenging Asuka to a WrestleMania match. She's like, when you weren't even here, but now Charlotte's gone. She's recovering from COVID, which apparently I thought that was just a storyline reason. Apparently that's true. So we'll see. There's things with Andrade. She's filming a movie, COVID, lots of stuff going on, lots of tension, they say, between Charlotte Flair and WWE. So who knows? But she's recovering from COVID. So Ripley says, well, I'm here looking at you now face to face, and I'm challenging you to a match at WrestleMania. Asuka grabs the microphone. She starts speaking in Japanese, and she says that Rhea Ripley is not ready for Asuka, but she accepts. So there we go. We have the Raw Women's Championship match set for WrestleMania. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley should be a fantastic match. Rhea Ripley will more than likely win. But then again, we did say the same thing about Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch, but I think they like Rhea a little more than they like Shayna Baszler. But I'm looking forward to this match. It'll be the first legit, feud, I would say, for Asuka since she won the belt, and she's going to lose it. So, that's how that works out. But then we see Drew McIntyre. He's backstage with Adam Pearce. And he says that his match last night was great. And McIntyre says him and Sheamus beat each other hard last night. And the kind of beating like that they gave, half the roster would have turned to dust. Pearce agrees, and he tells Drew that Cedric, Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin want to face him in a handicap match tonight. McIntyre says it wouldn't be very sensible for him to accept this close to WrestleMania. However, he'll do it if Pearce can agree that if Drew wins, Shelton and Cedric are banned from ringside at WrestleMania, and Pearce agrees. So there we go. We have, I thought this would have been the main event, but then I remembered, oh no, the Fiend and whatever. So we'll see this match later on in the night. So now it's time for the latest episode of Miz TV. So Miz is in the ring, and he says he had a horrible few months, and the last thing he needed to do was be laughed at by Bad Bunny. To his credit, Bad Bunny is a Grammy Award winner with many platinum hits. He's super famous, but who doesn't think he is? Miz says that Bunny has shown zero respect to him and lists his and Morrison's accomplishments, and then Miz shows the WrestleMania poster, and neither of them are on it. Morrison posts that they have over 30 years experience combined and more titles than many legends, yet Bad Bunny is on the poster. Well, last week, Bad Bunny caught Miz's attention, and he's going to regret that. We see a replay of last week when Miz hit Elias' guitar across Bunny's back. Miz says that should be a lesson to any singers, actors, or sports stars who think they can do what he does. Morrison says that he's certain Bad Bunny has ran back to whatever hole he hopped out of, and Miz says he need not worry because they're also musical geniuses. They have a new song called Hey Hey Hop Hop, so they play that. It's like the hey, hey, ho, ho. They're just in bunny outfits, just their typical stupid bullshit. And Miz says that this is the last we'll hear of Bad Bunny because his career will be over quicker than Vanilla Ice's. That line I actually liked. So then the Miz challenges Bad Bunny to a match at WrestleMania, and he says he'll end his career. And for a preview of WrestleMania, just watch what he does next. So before the match begins with Jeff Hardy, he gets on the mic and he says he's seen how Miz's matches go. He always needs John Morrison to interfere. So if he's a real man, he'll face Miz one-on-one. Miz takes the bet and tells John Morrison to leave. So at this point, it's like, oh, great. So now our boy Jeff Hardy is going to lose clean to the Miz because you knew they're putting the Miz over. He's about to go into a high-profile WrestleMania match with Bad Bunny. And, they did make this a singles match. Damian Priest will be in his side. Morrison will be on his side, on Miz's side, not to get too ahead of myself. But, to not even have Damian Priest on the card, not, Morrison, not to have the two of the best workers out of these four guys not even in the match, that to me was a mistake. It should have been the tag match, but, they'll get involved regardless. So we really shouldn't worry about it too much because it'll honestly just be a bathroom break match anyway. But to get back to what's going on here, the Miz and Jeff Hardy, quick match. Jeff looked good a little bit, but this was mostly just to set up the Miz for him to look good, to look strong. Jeff hits a flying forearm, atomic drop, a leg drop, drop kick, and a splash for a near fall. Miz whiffs Jeff into the corner, but Hardy kicks him away, and then he goes to the middle rope for a splash and a 2 count. Hardy looks for a twist of fate, but Miz counters and shoves Jeff shoulder first into the ring post. Miz then grabs Jeff, hits a skull-crushing finale for the 1-2-3. So now after the match, the Miz is being arrogant and yelling about his achievements when Bad Bunny smashes a guitar across his back. Bunny then heads up the ramp, and Miz is furious. He gets on the microphone, and he says, "I accept your challenge, bitch." So there you go. We're going to see Bad Bunny versus The Miz at WrestleMania. Like I previously just said, make it a tag match if you want it to feel special at all. But this is just for, the music fans, the casual, oh, we're good to see our favorite artist, Bad Bunny, wrestle some generic-looking white guy. Awesome. So then from commercial break, AJ Styles and Omos, they come to the ring. Styles says that at WrestleMania, Omos will be making his debut, and it will be awesome. Not only that, but he'll be winning the Raw Tag Team Championships in his debut, and it'll get even better because he'll be teaming with the all-time greats. And then Styles says he can't wait to see what Omos does to Woods and Kingston. He reckons Omos will literally put them through the ring. Styles admits the New Day are great, but with his ability and Omos' size, they can't lose. Wood and Kingston come out, and Kofi is just incredulous at the idea of them being beaten. Kofi asks Woods rhetorically if two men who have to become a team or if two men have to become a team at all before they can even win tag team titles. Yet, he's like, but you guys aren't even a team, so shouldn't you be a team first before you win the belts? And they make fun of AJ's height and that he hides behind Omos. Wood says Styles would drag Omos down, cost him matches. Kingston says he doesn't even know Omos, asks him some questions. Styles answers them all wrong, like, what's your favorite color? He says red. Omos says, no, it's mauve. And he's like, hell, he's joking. Mauve isn't even a real color. Who's your favorite wrestler? AJ says, oh, of course it's me. And he's like, no, it's Andre the Giant. So they keep going back and forth and stuff. So, I mean, the question thing was kind of funny, just the way AJ was responding. But the New Day here, super cringe, just, their typical, just, when they talk, it makes you want to change the channel. Unfortunately, here on Rope Break, we're soldiers, so we just watch, and then stick through it. But Styles says that none of that matters, and he starts chanting AJ rocks like New Day rocks. So then we get this match, AJ Styles with Omos versus Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And with this match, was it a great match? Yes. Did the right person win? Absolutely not. But am I biased because I love AJ and I absolutely despise the way the New Day's presented? Yes. So, this was very good. AJ, of course, working heel, working over the leg, getting the calf crusher, all that stuff. Kofi's a great wrestler, fantastic. And you had Xavier Woods and Omos and that, everything going on the outside. But a long match, very good. Let's skip to the end here because we still got a lot to go through. Kofi hits a splash on AJ's back for a near fall. Styles then catches Kofi in the calf crusher, but Kingston reaches the bottom rope. AJ lifts Kofi up, but Kingston slides off the back for a roll-up and scores a 2 count. Styles then lands a quick drop kick to the knee, moves to the apron. AJ jumps for the phenomenal form, but Xavier pulls his leg on the apron. AJ six almost on him and eventually jumps, but Kofi catches him in an SOS for the win. So you see the little distraction there by Xavier and all that stuff kind of cost AJ the match, but this is it's a dumb feud. It's a dumb match at WrestleMania. You should be able to do more for AJ. This should have been the Hurt Business versus the New Day. If you wanted to save it for WrestleMania, do it here, whatever. At least it would have been legit for the Hurt Business to have a match at WrestleMania. Now we don't even see that, but I don't know. This was what it was, and I didn't care for it. Then we see Sheamus. He's backstage for an interview, and he gets asked why he would face Bobby Lashley after enduring a war last night. Sheamus says that's because who he is. He's a fighter. He doesn't care about circumstances. He's asked about Drew McIntyre helping him out, and Sheamus says that it was out of respect, but he doesn't ask for help. Sheamus says McIntyre can't help but stick his big ego in everyone's business. Riddle appears on his scooter and does circles around Sheamus, asking random questions about Ireland. Sheamus stops him and asks him about the scooter. Riddle starts ranting about how great it is. Sheamus takes the scooter and pretends to appreciate it and then smashes the handle onto Riddle's guts. Sheamus walks off. Riddle can barely breathe and shouts, "Was it something I said, bro?" So maybe that'll be the U.S. title picture. Sheamus versus Matt Riddle. We said we needed something, so there we go. So when we come back from commercial break, we get the 2-on-1 handicap match, the Hurt Business versus Drew McIntyre. And for a handicap match, this was pretty good, but unfortunately, you're bearing the Hurt Business here because, of course, who was going to win this thing? Was Drew going to lose and then the heels would have the advantage going into WrestleMania to tell that kind of story? No, of course not. Of course, Drew won this thing. So at the end of it, they're fighting. McIntyre catches a kick. Shelton counters with the Dragon Whip. Drew gets fired up as Alexander tags in and clotheslines him, and then McIntyre lands another lariat with a belly-to-belly. Then he hits Shelton with a Future Shock DDT before catching Cedric with a flying neckbreaker. Drew catches Shelton with a Claymore, and then he Claymores Alexander as well. So, 1, 2, 3 pins these guys. The beginning of the match, Drew started out like a house on fire. Then the heels took over. Drew makes the big comeback like I just read. Again, you're burying these two guys, and that I just, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is legit. Drew's awesome. No, Drew is awesome, but, this wasn't very good at all. So then, he gets his stipulation. Nobody at ringside, maybe MVP, but that's probably it. And then backstage, we see MVP. He's dressing down Shelton and Cedric for losing. He's amazed about the night that they've had. And Lashley walks up. He shows them, and he's saying that, hey, if you guys can't do your job, I'm going to find some people who will. He walks into the locker room, says, hey, who wants to make a name for themselves? You take out Drew McIntyre. I'll give you the opportunity at WrestleMania. So, again, like I said earlier in the show, is this the Hurt Business being done? They get in Bobby Lashley's match in the beginning. They lose this match here to Drew. They lost the titles. Why break this group up? Again, I don't understand it. And, I guess we got to see where this goes. But so far, I'm not liking it. Then we see Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax with Reginald. So Lana and Naomi are on commentary. Again, you treated the women's division pretty good, pretty seriously with that first match, Asuka, Payton Royce, Rhea coming out. And then we get this. Again, I want to try to care. I do. But Reginald and, Lana and Naomi not very good on commentary. All this stuff, it's really hard to get into. And it's not presented good. And to be honest, nobody really cares. Jack hits Dana with the Samoan drop, 1, 2, 3. Did anybody think the champs were going to win? Champs were going to lose here? No. So who knows what this is going to be? Probably some big multi-woman, tag match at WrestleMania, because they can't think of a legit storyline for these belts. They should have just been lost to NXT. NXT shouldn't have gotten their own belts, but what do I know, right? So then we see Alexa Bliss. She's in her playground, and she says that she's known Randy wanted her out of his life, but she's still here, and so is he. You can't always get what you want, but tonight Randy should be careful what he wishes for. And then the Fiend says, "Let me in." Obviously speaking through Alexa. So again, still teasing the main event and what's to come. Then from commercial break, we see Shane McMahon, Elias, and Jackson Riker. They're in the ring, ready for a performance, and we see a replay of last night. Shane says that a lot of people are upset about what happened last night at Fastlane, but no more so than him. If he hadn't injured his knee, he would have wiped the floor with Braun, and when his knee is healed, he will do just that. Shane says Elias couldn't get the job done, and Elias attempts to make an excuse, but Shane cuts him off and tells him to never interrupt him. Shane then says that they've written a song called Braun is Stupid, and Shane sings it with Elias. Strowman comes out after the song, and he says he doesn't care if Shane has a peg leg. His ass whooping is coming regardless. Braun says that he has a little song for Elias. It's called The Man Who Got These Hands. Braun takes on Elias next. That line was actually not too bad. So then we see Braun Strowman versus Elias with Jackson Riker and Shane McMahon. Again, repeat of last night. Nobody cares. This is probably one of the worst booked matches for WrestleMania. Braun Strowman beats Jackson Riker. He might as well. They look almost the same. He beats Elias, running power slam, 1, 2, 3. After the match, Shane slides in, hits Braun across the back with his crutch. Braun no-sells it. Shane stares at the bent crutch, and he sprints out of there. We see his leg is fine. So Braun grabs the microphone, and he says he's had enough of the games. He's going to end this, and he asks Shane if he's man enough to face him one-on-one at WrestleMania. Shane accepts, and Braun can choose the stipulation. He's going to win no matter what because Braun is stupid. Well, Shane, you're stupid for wanting this match, agreeing to this match, and having this match happen. So, and we're all stupid for watching it. So who's the real idiot here? Then the Viper, after commercial break, he comes out to the ring with a black bag in his hand. So here we are, folks, finally main event. Thank God, because this show, like I said, a little bit of good, but a lot of bullshit to get through. So Orton says it seems only like yesterday when he watched the Fiend burn, but apparently he didn't do the job because he could smell the rotting flesh. And then there he was. He wasn't sure what he saw, but it was an abomination. So tonight, he brings us all to an end. There will be no more Alexa Bliss. There will be no more Fiend. Tonight, the bullshit comes to an end. So then Alexa comes out with the Jack-in-the-Box in her hands. She says she told him to be careful what he wishes for. She winds the Jack-in-the-Box, and a little Fiend pops out, and the lights start to go down. Flames erupt from the ring post, and the Fiend is standing behind Orton in the ring. So Randy turns around and is shocked, but neither of them move. He grabs the bag, which contains a gas can. And then Orton, he, smells it. Whew, like this thing stinks. Okay, it was probably just water, but, whatever. He dumps it on the Fiend. The Fiend kind of just stands there, doesn't move. Orton then, keeps dousing on him. He's, and then after that, he looks for a match, slowly pulls out the box of matches. The Fiend charges Randy, but he hits him with an RKO. Alexa then gets in the ring. Orton stares her down, and then the Fiend rises up. He grabs Randy, mandible claw, hits the sister Abigail. And then Alexa skips around the ring. Bliss points at the WrestleMania sign, and flames erupt all around. So, again, we get that challenge. We saw the graphic, Randy Orton versus the Fiend at WrestleMania. And, there we go. So, a lot of matches, on tonight's card were made on tonight's show for WrestleMania. We had Rhea Ripley and Asuka. You had Shane McMahon, Braun Strowman, The Fiend, Alexa Bliss. So lots of matches announced. Some teased, like I said, maybe Sheamus and Matt Riddle. So we'll have to see where this goes. WrestleMania, there's always a loaded card. There's always a lot of high-profile matches on. Of course, there's some duds. But, speaking of duds, that was this show and that was the review. So, tell me what you guys think. Did you think this was good? Do you like the Hurt Business splitting up? Are you excited to see Rhea beat Asuka and be the new women's champ? Do you like the New Day versus AJ and Omos? Am I, are Juan and I the only ones in the minority here? Do all you guys love it? Please let us know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. Also, don't forget to follow us on all the social medias, Rope Break on Facebook, OG Rope Break on Twitter, Original Rope Break on Instagram, and of course, right here, the home of the fastest growing brand and the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, the Original Rope Break. So, guys, again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time with NXT. Adaaaaa.